The National Assembly has passed the 2025 appropriation bill, totaling 54.990 trillion naira. The amount indicates an increase of more than 700 billion naira on the earlier figure of 54.2 trillion naira. A breakdown shows capital expenditure is put at 23.9 trillion naira, while recurrent expenditure is 13.4 trillion naira. Debt servicing is projected to take up 14.3 trillion naira, and 3.6 trillion naira is earmarked for statutory transfers. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, Adeola Olamilekan, had, while presenting the report of the Joint Committee on Appropriations for consideration, explained that President Tinubu had, following the suspension of aid by the U.S. government, provided $200 million to fill the gap. This will be the focus of Nigeria today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ikaria Clinton. With me in the studio is Honorable Philip Agbese. He's a deputy spokesman of the House and deputy chairman, House Committee on Media and Public Affairs. He's also a member representing ADP Agbodibo Okpoku Federal Constituency of Benue State. It's a pleasure to have you in Nigeria today.
Thank you very much. I'm actually representing Addo Okpoku and Agbodibo Federal Constituency. Okay.
Thank you very much for that correction. And also in the studio with us is Ismail Dabo, the chairman, House Subcommittee on Protection of Critical National Assets, a member representing Toro Federal Constituency, Bauchi State. It's a pleasure to have you in Nigeria today.
Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Also with us in the studio is Farouk Abdullahi. He's a financial analyst and a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to Nigeria today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
First of all, I will start with you, Honorable Philip. Okay, from the budget that was passed, the budget is 54.99, and initially it was before now it was 54.2. Actually, the president had written to the National Assembly for an increase from 49.7 trillion naira, eventually to 54.2 trillion naira, and now 54.99 trillion naira was passed by the National Assembly. Can you tell us why this significant increase of about 700 billion naira?
Yes, thank you very much. And let me start by commending the appropriation committees of both parliament, of both arms of the parliament, the Senate and the House of Representatives, for the diligent work carried out on the budget. It was a very rigorous exercise. They took their time to scrutinize the budget as it was presented to us. And during today's plenary, before we resolved to the Committee of Supply, members expressed their happiness and joy that across political divides that the committees were able to appropriately carry out the duty as assigned to them. So we commend them, we thank them. We all worked very hard to get to this point. You recall that recently Mr. President sent additional requests to the Parliament of 4.7 trillion naira, requesting that additional provision be made because of inflow from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Nigeria Customs Service, and other revenue generating organizations. We equally commend Mr. President for that level of transparency displayed by him, and looking at that, these monies are to be invested directly into critical national asset and infrastructure. A good example is revitalizing the Bank of Agriculture, which we in the Parliament consider to be something very genuine and important for us, to support Mr. President in driving, agriculture across the country. We equally looked at the issue of industries. The Bank of Industry too got about 500 billion naira, which will go a long way to ensure that SMEs and other industrial issues are addressed in the country. So we're equally happy with that as a parliament. Another signpost which of course really excited us about the additional proposals made to the parliament is the issue of providing infrastructure, housing, housing in particular for members of the armed forces. Of course, our selfless officers and men have been tackling the issue of insurgency. Their families have not been properly taken care of in the past, and Mr. President has deemed it necessary to do that. So as a parliament and as a people who were, of course, elected as representative of the people to serve their interests, we're excited about what Mr. President has presented to us. And, you know, before we consider and pass a budget, we will equally look at the history, you know, of the administration, past budget, how they have performed, and so far so good. The 2023 budget which Mr. President inherited and the 2024, they are doing so well. As a parliament, we have carried out oversight activities across the country, and we have seen critical interventions. A good example is what is happening in the Federal Capital Territory, where Mr. Yesom Wike is heading sway as the Honorable Minister. Of course, even if you don't travel outside Abuja, you see that under this administration, there will be massive improvement in terms of capital development, and that is what we stand for as a parliament. And again, we equally looked at a percentage of distribution of this budget in terms of capital projects across critical sectors, and we identified Mr. President's proposed investment in the area of education. Of course, every member of the parliament has been voted to ensure that every Nigerian gets adequate education, and we are looking at the issue of infrastructure in terms of education, providing classrooms across the country, and the welfare of our teachers. And this budget, as a matter of fact, we have seen that it is going to take care of this issue. So for us as a parliament, His Excellency, the Right Honorable Speaker Tajuddin Abbas has tasked every one of us, members of various committees, to ensure that not just passing the budget, but after today, we follow the budget. Just like we did in 2024, we passed the budget and we have been following it. We have been monitoring the spending. We have been following the money to ensure that every kobo of the Nigeria people, you know, is being accounted for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know, Honorable, if I leave you, I know you have quite a lot to talk about, but we'll come back to you. Now, to you, Honorable Ismail. Now, of course, before it was passed, you know, the National Assembly, talking about the Senate, of course, and the House of Reps, they went through, you know, some committees and all of that before eventually the passage. Now, you worked on the budget before its passage. Now, how will it affect, you know, critical sectors and change the lives of Nigerians positively?
Well, thank you. I can categorically begin with congratulating Nigerians for having such a wonderful budget that has about 23.963 trillion as capital intervention for capital projects. This is the first time we're witnessing such a drastic change in terms of capital project. If you look at previous budgets, you will discover that capital projects are not being given so much priority in such a way that critical issues of insecurity, our infrastructure, our health sector, our agriculture, and so on are being properly taken care of this time around under this 2025 budget. So it's a budget that we hope, if fully implemented, Nigerians will be happy. They will see reason why they should continue to celebrate this country, to pray for the nation. So we hope the executive will look inward in terms of revenue generation to make sure that they fill the gap and implement the budget.
Thank you very much. Now, to you, Farouk. Of course, you've heard from the two honourable members. Now, before I bring you into the new budget, I want you to, tell us, what's your assessment of the implementation of the previous budget, talking about the 2024 budget?
Well, thank you very much. Indeed, one of my mentors often says the purpose of any history is to look at the past in order to adjust for the present and plan for the future. So if we look at the previous budget performance, we would more or less say it is, we can look at it from a multifaceted angle. because it came at a time where the federal government took turn on two major policies that changed, the narrative of things. The way we carry out our daily activities have been grossly affected. That is the fuel subsidy removal and perhaps unification of exchange rate. And another policy that we are seeing that it would see to a great change or impact in the country is the recent tax reform policy. So all of these, I think, are part of the things that we should look at it from that angle. So accessing the performance of the previous budget, I would say it's relatively okay, given that these developments in terms of the strategic policies that the federal government embarked on were able to withstand the shock in spite of, let's say, the growing concerns in terms of the way the budget has posed up a serious challenge in terms of the high cost of living, inflation, and whatnot. So I think it's a transitioning stage that we won't say we are all living on a silver plate, but we are about to transition into a new phase, I would say, of renewed hope. That is what brought about, the manifestation of this budget. And I would agree with the honorable members and would share their own plight in terms of the various agendas, priority areas that were being captured in this budget. Insecurity is very paramount, is important. It affects virtually all aspects of, the national economy and our livelihood as well. If you look at infrastructure, also infrastructural development fuels growth. Without it, nothing can actually happen. Agriculture, I'm really glad for the first time I'm seeing such amount of money being channeled to, to agricultural project, for more like having an agricultural fund where, farmers and other players within the agricultural cycle can participate in accessing funding, to further bolster their agricultural inputs. This, I think, would lead to overall growth in the economy. So there are a lot of, areas or dimension we can look at that. But believe me, if you ask a layman in the street, he would tell you that, last year was very difficult. It was very horrible. But knowing what is going what is taking place, juxtaposing the statistics with the reality and with the projections, I would maintain, the disposition that there is still hope, and I believe we are on the brink of manifesting, the goodwill, of this government.
Okay. Now, back to you, Honorable Philip. Now, looking at the breakdown of the budget in terms of statutory transfers, we have 3.65 trillion, debt servicing 14.32 trillion, recurrent 13.06 trillion, capital expenditure 23.96 trillion. And of course, I don't want to go on and on about the other, breakdown. But then again, I know, of course, you have those figures yourself. Now, how does this 2025 budget align with Nigeria's economic, recovery and growth plans?
Yes, I've always maintained this position that the challenges that we've always had as a nation are not necessarily for our inability to budget or to plan properly, but the ability to curb, excesses and leakages. And with what we have seen with the 2024 budget and what we have done as a parliament as well, to oversight and ensure, that these provisions are, dutifully applied to the areas, I believe strongly that if we continue on that track, it is going to pay at the end of the day. For instance, if the funds that are being budgeted for the purchase of critical infrastructure for the Nigerian Armed Forces are deployed to fighting insecurity, the implication of that is that our farmers will be able to go back to farm. There will be less security problems across the country. And in doing that, it will pay well for the economy. Again, in terms of agriculture, you know, over the years, we've had this issue of staggering economic indices because of oil price fluctuation in the international market. That is because we have not been able, you know, to generate enough. You know, we have not been able to produce locally, you know, for ourselves. So today, a budget that is focused on agriculture, with a parliament that is alive to its responsibility, monitoring and carrying out its oversight activities, I'm very, very confident that there will be a lot of prosperity, you know, along the line for the local people and even for those, you know, who carry out agriculture at a high scale. And all this will boil down to a better economic atmosphere, especially in terms of foreign exchange earnings and demand for foreign exchange. And if this happen, we were able to do these things locally. I'm very sure the impact will also trickle into aviation, because it's also another sector that each time, you know, we have this issue of inability to clear backlogs because of our international obligations. And if you look at the issue of debt servicing, this government, I'll give it to them, they've done quite a lot in terms of keeping to their obligations and winning back the confidence of the international community and development partners across the globe, you know, to believe in the Nigerian project. Again, like I said, we are parliamentarians. Our duty is to monitor what the executive is doing. We'll continue to do that when they're on track. Of course, we have our way of commending them, and where there are issues that need to be resolved, we have equally developed tools like the town hall debate introduced by His Excellency the Right Honorable Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, and a couple of other public engagement, you know, to continue to engage the people. But before I go, let me add, you know, that one thing we have done in the 10th Assembly, you know, is to ensure that we as parliamentarians did not just pass this budget. You recall that on the 16th of January, we invited members of the public, civil society organizations, you know, to be part of the budget defense, you know, carried out by the National Assembly. We got the input of stakeholders, we got the input of Nigerians across all walks of life, and they were able to express their views and opinion. And equally, we have our internal in-house experts, you know, that Mr. Speaker engages from time to time to dissect issues. You recall that during the tax reform bill debate, the House of Representatives was the first to invite external experts to come talk to the members, interact with the promoters of the tax reform, and a couple of all of that. We will not go to bed. It goes beyond, you know, running the country goes beyond merely passing the budget. As a parliament, we are going to be alive to our responsibilities on day-to-day basis to ensure, you know, that this document is strictly adhered to, because the appropriation bill is a law on its own, and maintaining, keeping, and respecting the law is also very important. Again, like I said earlier, Mr. President and the executive, they have done quite a lot in terms of respecting, you know, our laws. So we expect that we'll continue to have that robust engagement as two arms of government working together in the interest of the masses.
Thank you very much, Honorable Philip. Now, Honorable Ismail, of course, the budget has been passed now, and of course, Nigerians are waiting for the implementation. When is this budget? When will the implementation commence? Because that of 2024, the timeline is still up until June. We still have them to do for that one to, you know, to elapse. So when will the implementation of the 2025 budget commence?
Well, before I respond to that, I want to add more to what my colleague has just said. When you look at the 4.5 trillion additional revenue that was sent, and we consider it in the parliament, 1 trillion is going into solid mineral development. The main reason for doing this is to make sure that the untapped mineral resources that we have in this country will be able to access such mineral resources, and it will diversify our economy. It will give more opportunity to our youth to be engaged in terms of business transactions, and that will reduce the burden of waiting for government to provide jobs for them. And if you go down, you look 5 billion naira was also appropriated to Bank of Industry to ensure the promotion of small and medium enterprises in Nigeria. People that have small businesses, they can access loan this time around, maybe with a 0 digit for them to go into business. That will help in reducing inflation, and it will create job opportunity for teeming youths. Then if you go to critical also infrastructure, about 1.5 trillion was also appropriated, was added to what was presented before to boost the economic development of this country, down to river basin line and so on. So on your question of when the budget will be implemented, the implementation process, yes, we extended the 2024 budget to June 2025. It's still running, yes, due to the sensitivity of the budget. The budget have to be extended to allow the executive to execute the budget 100% so that Nigerians will feel the impact. Then for this 2025 budget, yes, under the law, the budget can run concurrently without having any difficulties or issues. So immediately after the passage of the budget, the executive will look into the budget and consider those areas that are very critical, that need urgent attention to begin the implementation.
Thank you very much. And to you, Farouk Abdullahi, you know, in 30 seconds, tell us, how can we ensure effective implementation of this budget, minimize revenue leakages, and ensure proper utilization of funds?
I'm glad our honorable members are all present here, and recall, you know, from what Honorable Philip said, their duty also is extended to following the budget, how this budget is being implemented by the executive. So we hold them responsible for that, to ensure that the budget is judiciously, you know, implemented in the right way and within the right time frame, so that we won't get to extend it next year again. And also we hope that the executive would work towards ensuring that they pass the budget, they present the budget to the National Assembly as soon as possible, so that we won't have, you know, to get to the next year before.
Thank you very much. Farouk Abdullahi is a financial analyst and also a public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And also we had Ismail Dabo, is a chairman, House Subcommittee on Protection of Critical National Assets and member representing Toro Federal Constituency, Bauchi. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution. And of course, we also have here in the studio Honorable Philip Agbese, Deputy Spokesperson of the House and Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Media and Public Affairs. Thank you so much for coming on Nigeria Today.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you for being part of the program. I am Mikaria Clinton. Goodbye.